Welcome back to How to Tickle Yourself. I'm your host, Duff McDonald, along with my co-host, Joey of Rockledge. And my, oh my, we are excited about today's guest, a remarkable musician and guitarist who is about to bless the world with an unbelievably joyful album next week. It's coming out July 14th, and it's called Wild and Precious Life. The man of the moment is Duane Betts, and the album is packed with soulful melodies, intricate guitar work, and a raw, heartfelt energy that will take you to the place that great music is supposed to take you. Dare I say, it will tickle you. Son of the legendary Allman Brothers guitarist Dickey Betts, Duane is his own force to be reckoned with in the guitar-based rock and blues scene. After cutting his teeth with the bands Backbone69 and Whitestarr, he spent a decade playing guitar alongside his father as a member of Dickey Betts and Great Southern. He then traveled the world as a touring member of Dawes. But it's in the last 5 years where he's been on a complete and total tear. He released an EP in 2018, co-founded the Allman Betts Band, releasing 2 records in 2019 and 20. And then it was finally time for a solo album, which brings us to Wild and Precious Life, which is being released by our friends at Royal Potato Family. A native of Sarasota, Duane says he wanted to capture that old school Florida vibe with this record. Well, he did that and more, along with a powerhouse of a band, Johnny Stachella on guitar, Barry Dwayne Oakley on bass, John Ginty on keyboards, all 3 members of the Allman Betts Band, along with Tyler Greenwell on drums, and special guests Marcus King, Nicky Bloom, and Derek Trucks. Duane has gifted us with 10 scintillating tracks cut live at Susan Tedeschi and Derek Trucks' Swamp Raga studio in Jacksonville, Florida in 2022. Duane, this album is fucking amazing.
Wow.
Thank you for making it, and thank you for joining us.
Hey, that was an amazing introduction. I'm really thoroughly grateful that you liked the record as much as you seem to like it, and yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, he's been playing it nonstop. It's fantastic.
That's what we want. I mean, we want people to love it,
Over and over and over. I'm not kidding. It makes me so excited.
At the present moment, traveling town to town, the mystery of the motion, right here, right now, right here, right now, whoa, right here, right now.
Okay, so on that note, you made magic with this album, clearly. Starting with the jubilant song Evergreen with its horns, all the way to a beautiful love song, Circles in the Stars, at the end. And one of the goals of this show is we're looking to talk to people about how they grab the tickle of existence, right? And hold on to it and do things with it. And that's what you did here. So while none of us are going into the studio with you and Derek Trucks anytime soon, could you still tell us something about the approach you took to making it that can be useful to those of us seeking to make something beautiful ourselves? How'd you do it? How do you make magic?
I think you kind of find a centerpiece and then you start building around it. You get a couple things going and you connect to that and you feel confident with that there's substance there. And then you just kind of start building around it, and I think those 2 songs you mentioned are 2 that, I wrote Evergreen, I was in Florida and I had written it and then kind of finalized a version of it. And then I was on a trip down in Mexico and I brought a little parlor guitar down there with me. And I kind of realized the song wasn't right, and so I kind of rearranged the chord structure as far as like how the chords went around the progression. It was the same chords, but it was like quicker. I don't know. That's kind of hard to explain, but I kind of rearranged it, and I finished writing the second verse, I think, and then I had a real song. And Circles in the Stars was just it was an idea I had. I mean, I had that idea in my pocket, just the melody and the chord change, for probably 7 or 8 years before I wrote it, or 5 or 6 years, somewhere around there. I had it for 5 years, let's say. And then it was during the pandemic, and I was at my place in Jackson Hole, and I had a lot of time in the summer of 2020. And then I just finally finished it. You know, I had that idea sitting around for a long time. So sometimes songs take a while to turn around into, or ideas take a long time to turn around into actual songs, you know?
Oh, it's gorgeous. I love Circles in the Stars.
Yeah, I wrote that one for my wife. You know, it's clearly kind of like it's simple, but it's got a real kind of inviting, kind of comfortable quality about it, to where you can kind of follow it along easy. And it's a perfect song to end the record with, I think.
Well, and so speaking of, I'm hoping this one's about your wife. The Sacred Ground, is that the name of the song?
Yeah, Sacred Ground is another one. Yeah, I wrote that one in Jackson as well during that same period. And I had Saul Vaughn, who I co-wrote a lot of these songs with, come in and kind of clean that one up. I had it, but it wasn't quite up to, you know, sometimes you need an editor to come in and at the last second and kind of turn something from kind of like being like, that one's kind of a song that's kind of on the verge of cliche, you know, but it is a really good tune, you know?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
And,
I love
when
it.
you say
well, I mean,
feels like
the
we're
other
walking.
songs are, yeah, I mean, Circles in the Stars is a great song. Like, I'm not putting myself down. Like, I mean, you know, I'm saying he came in and made some really crucial changes in it that made it what it is. So I just want to give credit to him on that one too.
Well, the line itself feels like we're walking on sacred ground together with this love we found. I like when I heard it, I was like, oh my God. That's what Joey makes me feel like. Like
yeah,
you stole my line.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
You totally stole my line. But it's a perfect, you stole my line. I was going to say that because that's how that song made me think about you instantly and about our relationship. I love it. But it's a great segue because I wanted to ask you about your wife, about Lisa, and how she sort of factors in to your music and just in your life. Like, you seem to have a pretty good thing going.
Yeah, I mean, she's amazing. She's like, I wouldn't be able to do any of this without her. Like, I mean, I get so overwhelmed with like the schedule and handling this, and I have to get on a flight to do this, and I have to pack my bags, and what do I need, you know, just everything. Like, sometimes I feel guilty because she helps me out so much. Like, I want her to have time to do her, because she's an amazing designer and sells her stuff. And you can go to her Instagram and check it out. Plug. No. No.
What is it? What's the Instagram?
Yeah.
What's her Instagram? Lisa Hadley, Hadley Betts.
All right.
All right. 2 followers coming up right now.
Yeah. Yeah. She has, she makes all of her stuff in Bali. Or it has nice. She goes over there and sources the stuff, and from textile from, you know, the indigenous, and goes and works with them and stuff, and it's really cool stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're like, you know, we're partners in all this, you know. So like any good partnership, you know, we try to help each other out, you know, and this happens to be a big deal for me and for us. So, you know, I put, you know, time and financially and everything. It's like an undertaking. So
Well, you hit the bullseye.
But that song I wrote Sacred Ground. I got that idea going. We were I kind of remember the day that kind of solidified. I was on a hike. It was that same period in Jackson, because a lot of these songs those are Circles, and that one or two that were written in Jackson, Wyoming. So
and that was during quarantine?
Yeah, that one, those were both summer of 2020, but I came up with that one on a hike. We were on a hike. It was a gorgeous day, and it was, you know, I just felt really good. And, you know, we just walking through nature, and it's kind of ideas. That's really good for writing songs. You have like your coffee table, the couch, the acoustic guitar that you leave there overnight, your notebook out, with all the stuff jotted down. And then you come back to that, but then you get away from it and you go on a hike or something. And then you can work on it while you're kind of doing what you need to do to get away from it. You're also can kind of still dip your toes in it in your head while you're hiking, and melodies will come and that kind of thing. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people do,
Yeah, we go for walks every morning. And it's funny, once we step into the forest, it's sort of like, it just kind of clarifies everything, right? It like puts everything in its place, and like anything that might seem like a big deal and shouldn't be, it does away with it. It's just like this great equalizer.
I feel like it also has to do with just chemically, like, if you go out and like get a sweat going and walk up a hill, I mean, taking a walk is nice too, like around the neighborhood. I just did that, but going out and like getting your heart rate up and that stuff, I mean, that just chemically, like, I kind of am prone to like, I'm not like, I wouldn't say I suffer from depression, but like, I think I'm prone to being towards depressed. You know what I mean? I have to really do things to counteract it,
If I don't move my body, I get kind of, I get a little down. It's not that I'd say I'm depressed, but I have to do yoga, or we have to go for a hike.
Weather, and sometimes you just can't do it. Like, you got a ton of stuff to do and you're home for 3 days, and I mean, you could do it if you woke up at 7 a.m. to hit the class, and it's just like, well, do I want to sleep? I need rest. Like, maybe I can go hike later and not do yoga. I mean, I don't know. That stuff is kind of, you got to give yourself a break sometimes, but
for sure.
on which note, Saints to Sinners sounds like a song about recovery. Is that what that is?
Not directly. It's kind of about just like
getting your shit together.
Yeah, I was going to ask if I could say shit. Like, it's about just going through the shit, and like just kind of redemption at the end of it. That one is me and Stahl. Stahl has a big part of that one. I came up with that idea and I had it, and then he turned it into, we fuck up, and you try your best. And when you're out there, you don't mean to hurt people always, but you leave wreckage. And I think, so in that sense, it correlates to recovery. Yeah. But it's not like a recovery song,
I was thinking about the title. Sorry, Duff. About the title of Wild and Precious Life. There's a poem I love by Mary Oliver. It's called the Summer Day. And it has a line. It says, what do you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Yeah, I didn't know that. I looked it up to make sure there wasn't a record called Wild and Precious Life. And I was like, just hoping that there wasn't a record that came out like this year, and I did see that. And so I was like, okay, well, I can deal with that if there's like a poem that has it in it or something. Because it just kind of came to me like, I don't know. It's like, you're just here for a second, and like these giants, I don't know if somebody had passed away that was like, just, these people that are in your life from the time you're born to now. And then they're, I don't know. It's just kind of like, just kind of came to me, and it just kind of, I think it kind of speaks for itself. I mean, just like a symbolism for life in general,
So I wrote a book during quarantine called Tickled. It's right up here.
Yeah.
And I went to look and see if someone else had used it, and no one had. But there is a movie on Amazon where it's like for tickle fetishists. So I was like, "Fuck it, that's fine. I can compete."
Yeah, you don't have
with
to.
the documentary.
You don't have to be too hard on yourself with like, not you specific, like me or anybody. Like I'm like, oh well, does that mean I can't use it if it was in this or that? Like they're like, no, you're using it. Like
nobody owns words.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting though. The title of her poem is "Summer Day," and when I was first listening to your music and to Wild and Precious Life, I told Duff, I was like, "This makes me feel like a perfect Saturday afternoon in the summer." Like that's the feeling I get when I listen to it. So I just was wondering.
I'm glad it didn't make you feel like you were like broken down on the side of a highway in a blizzard.
All right, so shifting gears slightly here. We Joey and I made a snap decision in April to go out to see Willie Nelson's 90th birthday at Hollywood Bowl, which was absurd. And Shooter Jennings played with Willie's sons Lucas and Micah and Roseanne Cash. So it was Kids of the Highwaymen, right? They did a thing together. It's like the country music version of Allman Betts Band. Mm-hmm. I gather you met your band members there on tour with your fathers.
Yeah, I mean, as far as where me and Devin met, and me and Bear, I mean, yeah, pretty much the three of us met on that tour. But Barry obviously didn't know his father because his father passed away in 1972, I believe. But my dad, I don't know how exactly the two parties connected, but my dad really was adamant about him like coming out on the road with us and spending some time. And really, my dad loved his father and loves him and just kind of wanted to like open up the world to like bring him in, like, hey, your family, come on with us. So that's where we met. And then, me and Barry kind of knew each other in LA. A little bit after that, we played in a couple bands together when I was in my late teens, early 20s. And then Devin and I would always run into each other. We never lived in the same town, but we'd always see each other here in passing, And with that kind of a thing, you don't have to see somebody every, month you're kind of part of something much bigger. So,
Well, that was what I was going to get at. What is that much bigger? That's it seems like a really tight, thick community, that's multi-generational. What was that like growing up in that?
It's kind of just like going and hanging with like the family, like with like a great soundtrack, like, and a crowd. Like, I mean, it wasn't like really a big deal being around that in a way, and then in another way it kind of was a big deal. It's like, these guys are like, Greg's kind of like, that's a rock star kind of, but it's Greg, it's Greg, and they're just kind of like, we're all kind of the same traveling tribe, when you're on the road. That's how it feels. And it didn't feel like, it just felt like I was kind of at a fun place that was like, my dad's work kind of, but it was fun.
Setting your father aside, or you can of course answer him. What are your guitar influences? What
I mean, I love a lot. I mean, as far as the way I play, I mean, look, it's kind of like, The blues is a huge part. The King, the Albert King, the B.B. King, the Freddie King, the people that influenced my dad, and Duane and that generation, of rock guitarists that came after. But then those guys, I mean, Clapton, obviously Duane and I mean, I like Jimmy Page. I like Mick Taylor. There's so many people. I mean, then you get into Mark Knopfler, and I love Jerry Garcia, and Roy Buchanan. Roy Buchanan wasn't in Led Zeppelin or the Rolling Stones, so, it's more, he was fantastic, but he wasn't in a big band per se. But, then you get into like, I like stuff. I love, Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, and I like Blake Mills, who's a guy that I kind of grew up. He was playing with us when he was like 13, when I was in a band in Malibu called Backbone, and he was kind of a prodigy, and he's an amazing producer, songwriter, and guitarist. But Johnny Marr from the Smiths. I like people that do interesting things. They don't have to be the greatest, like the way the lead guitar players of the late 60s and 70s, early 70s, those guys that we mentioned earlier, like they don't have to be like that for them to really, for me to like really like what they do. Like Johnny Greenwood is a perfect example. Like what he does with the guitar is like, no one really does that. So but I love Mark Knopfler. I can't tell you how much I love Mark Knopfler. I love.
I kneel at the altar of Knopfler.
Yeah,
he's one where
I like. There's so many. Obviously Hendrix is like the greatest guitar player ever. Stevie Ray Vaughan. Those kind of people. Jeff Beck, obviously. Those people go without saying.
All right. What was it like to? I see that Steve Cropper produced your first EP. What was it like?
He produced so that EP was kind of taken from different sessions over different years, and I kind of had them as demos, and I kind of compiled it all to have something to put out, because I was like, well, this is good, people should hear this. I don't want to be too perfectionist about it. And so I kind of took what I had, and I had done a session with Cropper in Nashville, and we recorded 3 songs. And I think When We Get Home was the thing on my EP that I used from that session. And I think I recut the guitar and the vocal on it, but I really loved the bass and the drum, the bass, drums, and acoustic. I think was it just sounded so good, and I liked it a lot. So, but yeah, Steve Cropper is amazing. That all goes without saying. His work is he's a legend. And like Keith Richards too. Those guys aren't lead players, but those guys are guys that I are both bad to the bone. Obviously, it goes without saying.
You know who else is, and who plays just a dirty swapping guitar with you, is Marcus King on Cold Dark World. Damn.
Yeah.
He's a bad boy, Marcus. He's sweet as pie, and he's a good cat, as they say.
What are you listening to now? Give our listeners something that isn't obvious. Who's an unknown band?
Oh, man, I'm kind of slacking on what I'm listening to right now. I really haven't. I'll say I do like. You want to know something kind of funny? Is I was a huge Smashing Pumpkins fan, and when I was a teenager, and I still am, frankly, a fan of Billy Corgan's writing. So I've been kind of diving back into kind of that Siamese Dream, melancholy kind of stuff, just for old time's sake, and it's really great. But I've been listening to some of that. I've been listening to The Smile, which is Tom York and Johnny Greenwood's side project from Radiohead, their latest record. That's a phenomenal record if you're into just kind of weird. It's not bluesy. Like if you're into like Leonard Skinner, and that's what, you know what I mean? Like it's like, it's not like, it's not necessarily what my record sounds like, but it's not, I mean, it's really good. And then I kind of get, you know, I like a lot of the kind of songwriter, you know, I like Charlie Crockett.
Love Charlie Crockett.
I think he's got a really kind of compelling mix of country with this kind of old vocal with kind of soul, like a soul band with horns. And so I really like that stuff. And I mean, there's a lot of great songwriters out there, you know, the Tyler Childers and the, you know, those guys. I like Ryan Bingham. Ryan Bingham is one of my favorites. I can't get enough of him. He's great.
We got to go that direction, Joey.
But I like a lot of there's a lot of cool kind of indie stuff that I get turned on to from my tour manager. We'll go on. He'll just have playlist and he'll play and turn me on to a bunch of stuff. But so I like that stuff too. But you know, I'll always listen to. I have a tendency to go like when I'm in the sauna. I have a little sauna here, and I'll either listen to like African 70s radio, Pandora radio, which is like really cool. I like the African stuff. And I'll like the big band African stuff with the guitar, like the really cool guitar playing, the clean kind of guitar playing with the reverb. And then I also listen to like the Smiths and the Cure in the sauna. So that's the thing. And then when I'm in the car, I'll listen to like really cool reggae. I'll listen to satellite radio. I'll listen to outlaw country, Willie Nelson's Roadhouse when I'm in Wyoming, because it's like the perfect soundtrack, like the really cool, like old country stuff. So, and I listen to hip hop too. I love, I'm a hip hop fan.
Everything.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the best show?
I feel like the girl in Coming to America is like, you know, I want to direct my own movies and I want to star in them, but then I want to make costumes for the actresses and but then I want to produce, you know, so.
All right, what's the best show you've seen recently, live?
Oh, man. What was the last show I saw? I don't know. I'm really it's just I'm at so many shows that I'm playing at. Like, hey, babe. I went to the Stones last year. I had really good tickets. I mean, it was after Charlie passed away, but it was great seeing the Stones. But I haven't really, I mean, there's stuff I'm leaving out. I mean, I know it. There was something I saw Radiohead in New Orleans a few years ago, and that was really cool to see them, because I'd seen them back in the day, like back when Coachella was still for like people my age. I saw them there, and but I saw them in New Orleans, which was a kind of a cool thing to have this like so definite like this English band, you know, that's so English, be in like such an American, you know, the heart of American music, you know. So it was kind of that was a really memorable show.
I saw them play at Liberty State Park, under the Statue of Liberty 20 years ago or something. That was a mind-blowing show.
I also saw, I mean, this is a few years ago now, but I saw Mark Knopfler in Kansas City. That was really cool. I was with Devin Allman, and he lives in St. Louis, in the St. Louis area. And I flew there and then we had like a road trip and drove like the 3 or 4 hours to Kansas City to see Mark. So
that's awesome.
It was cool.
One of my best summers, I saw the following two double bills. Mark Knopfler and Emmylou Harris when they did all the road running, and Robert Plant and Alison Krauss when they did their first one together. So that was a banger of a summer. Seeing
that's cool. I saw Robert Plant and Jimmy Page together in Orlando when they did that tour in the early 90s. And that was cool. I had really good tickets, good seats. So
all right, well, look, closing us out here, step aside from music. What tickles you? What gets you motivated outside putting out ridiculously good albums like Wild and Precious Life?
Man, I don't know. I like to hang with my dog and wow.
I saw him creeping around back there.
Hey, Willie, that was ironic. Somebody out there. I really love to get into, having like a full existence, because I struggled with the addiction stuff like many of my friends have, and some of them didn't make it. And some of them did, but so I really just appreciate nature. Like when I go on a walk and I see the sun and the wind on the trees, like that stuff is so cool to me still after being sober for 6 years. And I love to travel and I love to see different places, and it's like worth the jet lag, as much as I can. I mean, I'm not just, able to, I'm going to fly to Bali because I want to. Like, I mean, it costs a lot of, I don't have the money to just live that lifestyle all the time, but when I can, and I'm fortunate enough, but I love to just taking care of myself and getting a little exercise and getting my chemistry in my head right, drinking a lot of water. I love my wife and I mean, we both love food, and she's an amazing cook. So, I mean, all of that stuff, just having a good day, a full day in a full existence is kind of the idea that, and it's hard sometimes. I mean, sometimes I wake up with like gripping anxiety, and you just got to keep walking forward and breathing and just walk through it and do something to get it out, whether it's like sharing in a meeting, or just talking to a friend, or, talking to a friend, then going on a hike and checking off the stuff on the list that you need to check off that will relieve the anxiety, and then just facing another day. I mean, it's kind of like the Buddhist thing of like life is suffering, it's like you can't just be in bliss like constantly. I mean, you have to drudge through the mud, so although in Sacred Ground, you're basically making the point where the love that you're feeling has opened your eyes to the divinity of your life, right? And this morning, I was reading this guy, Swami Vivekananda. He's a Vedantist, so pretty close to the Buddhists, right? Mm-hmm. And in explaining the philosophy of Vedanta, he said the following: you got to give up the world as we think of it, right? This is the stuff that messes with you. As we know it, as it appears to be, and know it for what it really is. And it goes, we need to deify it to know that it is God alone. And love helps us do that. It helps us look past, like for me with Joey, love helped me look past all the nonsense. I also have addiction issues, of all the nonsense you've layered on, and peek through, and you can see the light on the other side, man.
And like,
yeah, sometimes you gotta be proactive to cut through it. And
right.
like, it's there, but sometimes it's easier said than done. And you have to get up and do it, and that's like something my dad taught me. But that's amazing. I mean, I wish you'd like email me that book or whatever, but
I will do that.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's just when you go through that, and you have to get through a day and then get through another day and then get through 30 days. And then, and you still you start feeling a little bit better and a little bit better. I mean, that's just that's good training for life, because it's the same thing, whether you're withdrawing from, opioids or you're never have done them in your life. Like, you still have to kind of take the approach of like, just get through it, and I mean, and a lot of times I'm like, it's not like I'm always like every day is like that. You know what I mean? I don't mean to paint a bleak picture. I mean, there's a lot of times I'm just like, great, but it just, you don't always feel how you would like to feel, I guess is what I'm saying.
It's like that saying, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say I'm going through hell. I mean, I live a pretty charmed life here. I'm grateful. I have amazing family, and I'm happy. So, I don't want to make it like, oh, I'm going through hell, or something like that. But
life is sweet.
Everybody
life
has
is wild and precious.
It's all relative, you know what I mean? So,
but also, so let us return to the reason we're even here. Your album is a joy explosion. It is, put it on, and from note one, it kind of makes me psyched. Right. And my wife has this thing, she makes fun of it. It's called my snap dance. I'll be standing in front of her, snapping and just dancing out of being happy. And your album makes me do the snap dance. So it's crossed that threshold.
You get a 10 snap rating.
So good. Congratulations and thank you. It is a work of art. It's also coherent too, right? In the way that albums, the best albums of our lives always felt like a package, like a thing that wasn't just the single songs, but had the whole coherence of it. It's got that too. So you know how to harness the joy. So I dare say you're even a bit of an expert at it because it's so amazing. Listeners, Duane Betts album Wild and Precious Life out next week, July 14th. Run, Don't Walk to Spotify, and maybe even pick up a physical copy of it if you're so inclined. Royal Potato makes great LPs. Duane, thank you for joining us. It's been a thrill.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so there you have it. I'll take you back to the beginning. I think one of my favorite things I heard there, and it's a great life lesson, is you got to start somewhere. So when he's talking about, I was like, how do you do this? How do you make magic like that? He's like, the answer is start doing it. Right?
It reminded me too of Jonathan when he was talking about a single point of a mandala and how the music is built around it. And it's that sort of
a raga.
A raga. Yeah, it was a raga that it's built around. So it's a very
and what he was referring to there too is like the Allmans are famous for it, but also Duane's an expert practitioner, Derek Trucks too, where they have the progressions and then they have like a spiraling, a song that spirals around it. Right. So there's a through line and then they're circling it. But essentially the lesson for me at least was, you want to make something beautiful, start working on it and you'll see where it goes. Right. And while he's answering it, I'm feeling like, Christ, that was a stupid question. How do you do something? And he's like, do it. So, and he's talking about his logistics. He's in a couple bands. So if you look at his website or on Royal Potato, his list of upcoming shows, it's with Allman Betts, by himself, and whatever. It's like the logistics must be pretty arduous. He's got too many awesome things going on, that guy.
I could barely handle getting my garden planted and making lunch today.
Right. And just so anyone who's still listening here, just to punctuate a point, it's one of my favorite albums I've heard in God knows how long. I can't stop listening to it. I'm cranking it. So check it out. It's a really it's inspiring and invigorating.
Yeah, it's like a summer day.
What's that?
It's like a summer day, like a perfect summer Saturday.
Right.
It's
and
great.
Just good times. It's an album of good times. All right, so I've got one for you. It's from Swami Vivekananda as well, who I mentioned there. I read this the other day. I loved it because it explained a way to think about man and God. So I'm going to read it in two halves. He starts off by, he says, man is an infinite circle whose circumference is nowhere, but whose center is located in one spot. So basically, like if you think of like your physical body as, in one spot, theoretically, if you're down on the gross there, but mentally, you have no circumference, right? So you're an infinite circle whose circumference is nowhere, but whose center is located in one spot. God is an infinite circle whose circumference is nowhere, but whose center is everywhere.
That makes perfect sense to me. I feel like when I'm in a state of presence, it's sort of localized here, but there isn't actually a boundary to it, right? Like there isn't, it's not confined like the way your body feels.
Right.
Confined.
And then what the God part is so there's you in your infinite circle and no circumference. He's in all of it. So here it goes. He works through all hands, sees through all eyes, walks on all feet, breathes through all bodies, lives in all life, speaks through every mouth, and thinks through every brain. Man can become like God and acquire control over the whole universe if he multiplies infinitely his center of self-consciousness.
That's all. Right? That's all you got to do.
Right? Because you and God share the infinite circle with no circumference nowhere. The only difference is your center is located in one spot. To become like God, all you need to do is multiply infinitely your own center of self-consciousness.
All right. Got
Any questions?
Done.
Yeah.
Bang. Done.
Thank you, Peter Giles. So, I found that great because it basically explains the as above, so below, how we go from, the supreme down to our own godlike existences, but which are contracted somehow, right? It just means you're misunderstanding the center here. You're not a single spot. You're everywhere.
You're all the spots.
Okay, so and to close out, just because, why the hell not? We're gonna go with someone we haven't talked about in a while, Baba Muktananda. So, I was telling you the other day, anyone who's read Tickled, one of the things I talk about in there is I make this point over and over and again that counting things can't get to the essence of a thing. A great example is a tree. If I said, tell me about the tree, you could tell me how many leaves are on it if you could actually count them, but that's not going to get to the essence of the tree.
How tall it is, how wide it is.
right? Or if you talk about a person, all the silly ways we count ourselves, right? None of them get at the essence of who you are. And even sports teams, you know, they do have to play for the championship and stuff, but a sports team's record, two teams can have the exact same record and they'll be very different teams, right? So they won't get at the essence of who the different teams are. So I wrote that in Tickled, and like I was fairly confident in it when I was saying it, and I remain so. But in retrospect, to tell you the truth, I really didn't know what the essence of a thing was, right? I just knew what it wasn't, which is some kind of count. And in my readings of yoga since then, one thing that I came across is that this is not a problem which is my own individual problem. They have a term for it, which it's called neti, which means not this, not this. So when you're looking for God, right? Basically, if it's anything that's sensorially perceptible, that's not it. It's not this. It's not this. And the reason for that is because the essence of a thing is actually invisible to the senses, right? So if you say the essence of me or you, right, you could take a picture of us. It's not going to get at the essence. You cannot grasp with the senses the essence of not just a person, but anything. It's the isness of it, right? The ultimate thing behind the thing, which is the backdrop of reality itself. So here we go. That's a long-winded way of, so I'm reading Swami Muktananda, and he's talking about, and he finally, I was like, oh my God, this is what the essence is. So he's talking about Shiva, who's one of the gods of the Hindu Trinity, but also stands for, the Supreme as well. And he says the following. It's a great passage. He says, Shiva is the isness of everything. Shiva is real. Shiva is all-pervading. He never ceases to exist. He never vanishes. He is eternal, whether or not he is perceived to be so. He is everything. He is in the failed in the same measure as in the redeemed. He is as much in the wicked as in the enlightened, as much as in the sinner as in the saint. Shout out to Duane Betts. As much in an atom as in the vastest cosmos, as much in a drop as in an ocean. He is beyond all limitation of space, time, and substance. He is everywhere. He is everlasting. He is in all. He is ever perfect. Indeed, to think that nothing is without Shiva is to see Shiva.
That's fantastic.
So, what Duane Betts' album at least helps me to do is, and it's what he was saying about going out on hikes and having a full day. This is something a lot of addicts, because when you get an addiction, you basically just blow entire days and you don't even notice what happened. So he's talking about appreciating every moment. And the point I was making when I quoted that earlier Vivekananda thing is appreciating every moment is ultimately in yoga. It's realizing that God is in everything and he's all around you. He is you, you are him, etc., etc.
And I'd like to, if we have time, close with the Mary Oliver poem, The Summer Day.
Please.
Okay. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper. I mean the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
If you think you're making a move on my closing quotes with stuff like that, I think you need to think again.
We're just we're giving the people what they want, right?
Listeners, go check out Duane Betts' new album. It's out next week. It's extraordinary. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with you soon.
Bye-bye.
At the present moment, traveling town to town, the mystery of the motion, right here, right now, right here, right now, whoa, right here, right now.
You've been listening to How to Tickle Yourself with your hosts Duff McDonald and Matt McButter. You can help us by liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with others. You can talk to us and see what else is happening on Instagram and Facebook at How to Tickle Yourself. This program was recorded in Studio B of the historic Rockledge Recording Studio and the Tunnel Under Arundel. Right Here, Right Now, our original 16-part theme music was written and recorded by the legendary Paul Reddick and Kyle Ferguson of the Sidemen, with the brilliant Steve Mariner on bass and drums and in the mixing room. The podcast is produced and distributed by Storic Media. Our editor is Andrew Steiner. Our coordinator is Samantha Abramovitz. Our producers are Kristen Verbitsky and Chuck LaBella. For more information, visit storicmedia.com. That's STORIC media.com.
My love, my dear.